the can-do attitude, the can-do approach, and the resilience of, yes, I want to make it happen, and I don't accept that I'm failing. The winning will be just behind the corner after the next little match lost. And so this kind of resilience became even stronger because it was supported by the fact that at some point I managed to succeed in little wins here and there. But I don't see any failure. It's just I need to take longer to win. The moment you stop searching for a win, then you have lost. The resilience gets heavily connected with this. It gives you confidence and you build on it. So this has been very, very helpful.
This is Gloneration Podcast, conversations around the new generation of global talents and brands. Ciao, mio host, Simona Lodolo. Every 2 weeks, together with an international guest, we'll embark on a journey to explore what it means to be a leader in today's ever-connected and constantly evolving world. My guests, managers, entrepreneurs, and standout figures from around the globe, are shaping the future of culture, economics, and society. Their stories, experiences, and visions are here to inspire the next generation, the Gloneration. Ciao everyone, welcome back, fresh and ready for a super beautiful interview with a young, talented global manager, Andrea Mantovani, Global General Manager of E-commerce at L'Oréal Luxe. Ciao Andrea.
Ciao Simona, come stai?
Good, thank you so much. From Paris, Chicago, Paris.
Yes, naturellement.
Bien sûr. So Andrea, you have 16 years of e-commerce, digital marketing, and omni-channel experience. But what made you land in this love and passion about e-commerce and the digital world?
The passion actually comes from far away because since I was a teenager, I was developing websites by myself in my little room. At the time, HTML and CSS and maybe a little bit of PHP was enough to do interesting things. So while I was studying and I had a lot of time, I was enjoying playing in the little dark room of my room, developing websites for myself, for my friends, for the little restaurants of the friend that I was asking for, and so on. And that's why e-commerce, or let's say web and digital, has always been around in my life. Then I studied something completely different, and maybe we'll talk about it. But web is always been there.
Where does this entrepreneurship come from?
The answer is relatively simple because I moved to Australia when I was in between, I think, the third and fourth year of my university, because I wanted to learn English. Well, the ambition has always been the driver, no? And I say, okay, as Italian, my English is not that now is amazing, but it was very, very close to zero. And I say, if I want to do something in life, I better know this language. And that's why Australia also has the sexiness of the country far away, the sun, and so on. So those two things together moved me to do working holiday visa with a great love and joy of my mother and father. They were not 100% happy, let's say, about that. But it was probably the first time I say no to my father and my mother when I decided to go there. And it was one of the turning points of my life in general, and probably also about the career, because it opened my mind. It gave me this tremendous confidence that then helps you in life to move forward. And when I came back from Australia, I was very uncomfortable with the Italian environment. I was actually about to be graduated, so I started to look for something, and I couldn't find anything that was at least in line with my expectation after the first time I've been to Australia was 3 months, then 1 year within the university. And so I say, you know what, I want to go abroad again. I tried to go back to Australia, but it was impossible because it was nearby the global crisis. They closed themselves as a sort of like protectionism. Immigration was not as easier as before. And I couldn't go abroad because no experience, nothing. So it's hard to get a job now in that condition. And that's why I rely on what I used to do in my little room. And I've been trying to make some money with my websites. And so I was with one foot outside, running behind restaurants around Milano, and inside I was developing my websites, presenting them, selling for a little amount of money in the beginning. And then I was learning for myself and improving. And I managed to run a couple of years, a bit more than that.
Oh, that's pretty long.
Yeah, it was. It was a great experience. Honestly, of course, at some point you understand that you cannot learn only from yourself. I was very young, not experienced, and I couldn't scale. And that's why then you move somewhere else. But that's basically why I started e-commerce, even if I wasn't planning in the beginning.
So what is the greatest skill that you got from this entrepreneurial experience?
I think it's straight in something that somehow I had already. The can-do attitude, the can-do approach, and the resilience of yes, I want to make it happen, and I don't accept that I'm failing. The winning will be just behind the corner after the next little match lost, and so this kind of resilience became even stronger because it was supported by the fact that at some point I managed to succeed in little wins here and there. So it gives you confidence and you build on it. So this has been very, very helpful for me.
Wow. Yeah, I also discussed with some previous guests of mine about this attitude on how you take the failure. You know, it's not a failure. It's just a little slow down. It's a learning experience. So this is your case as well.
I don't see any failure. It's just I need to take longer to win. The moment you stop searching for a win, then you have lost. But if you continue, and that's where the resilience gets heavily connected with this.
After this experience, is it then that you decided to go abroad again?
No. After Australia and those 2.5 years, I didn't give up to go abroad, but I was entering into the Italian mood and so on. So I understood that I needed to learn from someone better than me because me and myself, I couldn't scale beyond the restaurants nearby. And that's why I went into a digital agency, kind of consultancy approach to learn from someone better than me. And that was a turning point where you really can play and can sit with big clients, seeing real projects, and that's where I really developed the skills of e-commerce. And the next opportunity abroad came up when I joined Moleskine after five more years in digital agency. I joined Moleskine, spent 1 year in Milan, the HQ. The opportunity of China actually wasn't there very clear. Dig for it, and it became actually bigger than what I expected in the beginning. I remember it was this guy that was running China, probably was running it from Hong Kong, if I remember well. He left, and the company decided not to replace him for a while. And I took the liberty to do handover with this guy because nobody was actually doing that. Now I say, okay, let me get this knowledge in and we'll see what's going on. Maybe I can handle China from here. I didn't think at the time that they would have asked me to go there. And that's why at some point, month after month, the little information I got, I built them up, I studied by myself and so on. And in meetings, when China popped up, I was the only one raising my hand and say, oh, by the way, I know. We were doing this and that, and then we didn't do that for that reason, blah, blah, blah. And then the company starts saying, okay, maybe this guy knows a little bit about that. And then we explore the possibility, and here we are.
But that's really courageous because, again, at that time, I guess not so many people wanted to move to China, especially in the commerce digital world, because it's not something, that easy and that similar to the Western world.
I think there is always a certain degree of unconsciousness, or you do it because your heart pushes you to get more. The driver is always the ambition, and then again back to little wins, the entrepreneurship approach that somehow bring me to get some money out of the selling I was doing. You build a type of confidence. Somehow I have seen that I managed to succeed, so I will succeed even in this way. And that's open a bit more the opportunities because you don't say no by definition.
And so this is another big turning point that you faced. Was it more difficult to go from APAC China environment to a global, or would it be more difficult to do it backwards?
The beginning of the experience in China was definitely challenging. I think you've been there as well. I don't see so much the difference between running Asia Pacific and running global. I mean, the moment you move from running one country to 2+ countries, I think the complexity is already there. So it could be 2 countries, it could be 3 countries, it could be a full region or more. This type of complexities is the same, of course, different scale, but that's a turning point. So I think, and China was also the first country I managed. I was not running business before. That was my objective. I don't care which country, but I want to run business because I was project manager before. And I started with China, which is pros
You
and
started
cons.
with an easy one.
But the truth is that, to be honest, sometimes you also need to have a little bit of luck being in the right place at the right moment. And I believe you build your own luck. So I want to take a bit of the responsibility also for the luck. I like that. But the truth is that I've been sent there with, I think, low expectations of the results. And that helped me a lot. It wasn't my advantage. Because in the beginning, I had the freedom to discover, try, test and learn and continue. And at some point in China, that happened very fast. So the company gave me a bit of time, but in that little time, I managed to do decent steps. So when the money starts to arrive, then where the HQ starts to raise the flag and say, okay, wait, I gave you freedom now. Come here, let me check a little bit. And the moment they put a bit of more pressure, let's say I was already quite prepared because of the speed of China and because of the learning appetite I had. So that was I don't want to say easy, but starting this way to remove you the pressure of the performance from the very beginning.
And I would say that at that time when you were in Moleskine, it was the beginning of the incredible growth of e-commerce, not only in China, but worldwide. So did you have any mentor, anyone who taught you, or it was just, as you said, I try, I adjust?
There is always someone that help you out or is like your reference in the way of working. I had the luck to meet very, very smart people in China. First of all, in the beginning, of course, you don't internalize everything from day one. So you externalize, so you work with external agencies. I think that was why my let's say my little talent at that time, when I had no skills about the country, was really being able to pick. And probably because I've worked in agencies before, I picked the right one. Not too big, not too small. That could like tailor to my needs. So and through them, and I'm still very much in contact with them. I saw them in Paris a few weeks ago. They're still working in the industry and they're super expert, and I learned a lot from them. My boss in China was was an expert of retail, and I learned a lot from him. So I mean, there are many people I learned a lot from.
That's nice. What do you wish you knew when you started this global adventure?
Another simple question, Simona.
Of course.
I think I'll answer you from a personal perspective. When I moved to China, I was not expecting to stay so long down there. Maybe if I knew from day one that I would have stayed more than 8 years in Asia, I would have taken different decisions from any small investment perspective, because you throw away, for example, so much money in renting. While if you have a short-term perspective, of course, it makes sense. If you have long-term perspective in one country or one region, then I may have taken different decisions. And I mean, the little money I have, I invest them in real estate, and that would have been a smart idea.
This is a nice link for me to ask you a questions about the investment. Now we are talking about what if I would have bought an apartment or invested in. But how do you see your global experience as an investment?
Massive. It has been an investment, and it continues to be an investment, because there is always something new that you bring back home, you put it on your shoulder and you build on it. But certainly China was an investment, but China was a turning point for multiple reasons. So being in a country that is literally 5 years ahead than the rest of the world from e-commerce perspective is the best master you can do. It was a paid master. And then the first time they sent you to China, I think this is a story that most of the people that did that can resonate with. You believe they give you a good salary, then you go there, you realize that's also an investment. So in the beginning is also an economical investment, despite what they believe. I mean, probably people that went to China 10 years before me, they maybe it was a different perspective. So it was the rise of e-commerce, but it was already for expert positions down there. It was already like flattening down and so on. So multiple angles to talk about an investment here.
If you could change one thing about e-commerce, what would you change?
There is something that has changed dramatically over the last 6, 7, 8 years, which is the technology behind the infrastructure. If you think about the way we were developing websites, or we were building an infrastructure behind, forget about e-commerce, like the end of the funnel, but the whole ecosystem, CRM and all the story behind to build all the consumer journey, following the touch points and so on. So that full machine, it required massive development, infrastructure that were pretty solid, consistent. This was true for the big companies as well as the small one, because you needed to build that rock solid machine, because e-commerce was starting to be a thing, and we've been developing those kind of infrastructure the way we were used to develop infrastructure in the other industries, in the other channels. While in the last few years, that infrastructure became so lean and so relatively agile that now is a massive legacy for all companies that is there, and it doesn't always allow companies to be as agile as they should. If I could change something, probably I would give, in Italy, we would say a condono for all IT infrastructure and say, you know what, let's start everybody from scratch. And if we could build everything from scratch with the technology that we have today, yeah, sometimes things could be really, really more agile. And this is true in e-commerce in every industry. This is e-commerce pure channel.
Is it easier now, or was it back then?
I think now the way to drive traffic to e-commerce is 10 times more complicated because of the multiple touch points. What is e-commerce? Before e-commerce was the full funnel. Now e-commerce is the end of the funnel where you convert. So how you activate, how you convert at the last mile. But the machine is much more complicated, with the touch point increasing exponentially. The diversity of the touch point all over the world, the ecosystems that are different. Think about Alibaba, Tencent, now we have Douyin, and then you have the Amazon ecosystem, and then all the rest. So it's a layer of complexities over a layer of complexities. At the end of the day, all those matrix of touch points, they're gonna face one single consumer. So to me, e-commerce became way more complicated now.
That's curious, because honestly, I guess also you have a way to update, you have a big team, but back then, I don't think that there were so many experts, especially in China, but all over the world, because it was something that was coming up as a new shopping experience. So somehow you had to do everything by yourself, or even as a responsibility, as you said, you have to pick a partner, but you don't have all the elements to judge whether they are good or not. It's really more risky.
You're right, but it's a different way to do business, and I think this is the cycle of the economics of every relatively new business. We could say the same about AI. AI now, how can we measure AI? I mean, we don't even have regulation. So what are we talking about? So, but the day after tomorrow, we will have KPIs behind, and you will have someone challenging you on. Now, the KPI was better last year than this year. I think it's a natural evolution of the business.
What would you say are the 3 traits of your character or skills that made this global path easier?
You asked me 3.
3.
I'll give you 3, but I'll be funny. Resilience. And I say that because if you ask specifically to myself, I don't believe I have. There are people that they're think about sports, or they are vertical and they are very good in something. But I don't think I am very good in anything. I mean, really, we were talking about before now that being generalist and so on. And I think the reason why somehow the things works is because you work hard, you don't give up, because you want to learn, you want to enter into details, because you want to really understand what you're talking about. And this, I call it resilience. So if I have to say something on myself, I say that. I don't think it's a talent. I think it's like a desire to get things done and desire to arrive.
It is a talent.
It is. Let's consider it a talent. But it's different now when you may be the best expert of a certain media touch point, and I come to you because you are the expert. And maybe an e-commerce is there are experts on e-commerce, very vertical on something. And it was probably more complicated in the beginning, because in the beginning of your career, you need to create yourself, at some point, and then you may become a generalist. So I always been a bit of a generalist, and I continue to struggle because the complexity is always there. But was probably more struggling in the beginning, when you need to prove that you are expert in something, and somehow you like to move cross-functionally. And at some point, this is e-commerce. I mean, supply, finance, those are things that you need to understand how it works. Otherwise, you can run e-commerce.
Before you work for one of my favorite lifestyle brand, Moleskine, and now in beauty with L'Oréal Luxe.
I still take notes on paper. Sorry if I interrupt. E-commerce, digital, but let me continue to write.
If you have to tell me and share one word, that define your global adventure, what would it be? Not resilience, because
No,
it's not fair.
no, exciting. It's amazing. Huh? The possibility to live abroad, to study a different market, to meet different people from a professional, but first from a personal perspective. So it's super exciting, and I may understand some people may feel uncomfortable and they love to stay where they grow up and follow their habits. And sometimes it's challenging for all of us as well, because starting over, new people, and all those things that are for the first few months, you say,
What did I do?
but then and again, it goes back to the fact that in the past you feel confident because you won before, or you feel confident that it will be sorted out because you have experienced that before. And the more you experience, the more you know that you need to go through this little tough period. But then the added value, it's so cool and so relevant for enriching your life that you're going to go through a bit of a mess, and then everything going to be sorted out, and every time the adjustment is faster. So certainly excitement.
I asked this question because I've been reading articles from Europe mainly of young people, young talents that wants to go abroad, but sometimes they only do it for financial reasons or for reasons that are different from what I experience myself. And that's why Gloneration. I wanted people like you, global talents, really sharing, just to give a real picture of what it is and not something that you would like to do. So you must be prepared. Do you think that being global changed the way you are?
Yes, along the years we all change. But if you stay in your comfort zone for your life, in your own town and so on, technically, the experiences you can have are limited to the environment that you are and to the people you meet. So if you expand your geographical locations and the number of people and the type of interaction you can have, you're receiving a much higher number of inputs that, of course, results in a much richer change. When you like you call it now, when you become global, using your words, you become global. If you are red, you don't become just orange or some light red and so on. You become blue at some point. You yellow. You become green. And then all those things together are going to mash up to enriching yourself. And then at some point, it's hard to define which color are you, because you're influenced by so many different things. That's the perception sometimes. So absolutely yes, in a way that is enriching you in a beautiful way.
And how do you prepare yourself to be enriched? Because this is also something that is taken for granted, but it's not.
There's no one single change that I have done that didn't provide a bit of pain in the beginning. China was probably the biggest one because it was the first big one. Australia was a bit more for fun, with a clear return, with less responsibilities also. China, for multiple reasons, was quite shocking. And I remember like it happened this morning, that the day was probably 2 or 3 weeks after I joined China, and my wife was still in Italy for some personal reason, so she joined me a few months after. And at the time, I also had the responsibility of saying that I'm not going to move alone, but there is someone else that is trusting what I'm believing in, and she's going to move. So it's a double responsibility. And I remember I was at the 26th floor of the Moleskine office, looking outside the windows, beautiful skyscrapers windows, and it was like very often happened during those days in Shanghai, a quite gray day for pollution and so on. Now, luckily, Shanghai became a completely different city from a pollution perspective, but at that time it was still a bit tough. And I remember these like skyscrapers a perdita d'occhio, we say in Italiano. No, you lose them as many they are, and you know what I'm talking about. The gray skyscrapers. Me alone, no, all Chinese, because in the very beginning, so I was the only foreigner there. I say, wow, what the hell have I done? This time I push it a bit too further. My friend, this time you push it a bit too further. And then you go back to yourself. Maybe you cry in your little room and you say, but it's gonna work out. And then day after day, week after week, not as fast as maybe in other experience, but at some point you get to see the positive, and you get used to, and then now I can tell you it's one of the most amazing experiences I've ever done, and literally changed my life and my career as well.
And do you have a trick or a tool to charge your battery or to face this difficult time?
I'm pretty good in disconnecting. So we're all surrounded by responsibility, pressure, achievements, emails, meetings, and so on. Sometimes if I don't switch completely, I'm gonna burn out. And this is my way. I'm pretty good in doing that, and I think I recommend to everyone to learn how to do it. I don't know how to. Honestly, I wouldn't be able to teach. But for example, soccer, following AC Milan, it helped me a lot because I listen the stupid news that says, and it's to me is a way to lower down the pressure. AC Milan for me is the most important things of the less important things. So I use that as my getaway. It's one of them, the one I use. Yes, decongest is very important.
And talking about your network, you said you had mentor. Did you find people around the world helpful in this process of adaptation, of becoming part of a different environment and culture?
Thank God, yes, and way more than what you expect or what people may expect. And this is also the beauty of this global life. Again, I'm using your words because you are away from your country, you're away from your family, so you have a need of human connections, and you're much more inclined to meet people, to enjoy time with people rather than the one you have in your country where you are in your comfort zone, you have your family, you have your friends from childhood. While when you're abroad, you're alone, and we need people close to us for support, for just for relax and so on. And that's why you build up those amazing relationships that you would have never created if you would have stayed in your comfort zone in your little town in Italy. This is something that when you leave, you don't know, but it's probably one of the things that enrich you the most. And they're not only very often very smart people that has been traveling way more than you, that has way more experience than you, that you can learn, but they're also very different. Maybe they have less experience than you sometimes, but it's a different perspective. And I turn to have very good friends that have 10 plus years more than me, and I consider them very close friends, as well as 10 years less than me, and I consider them very good friends. And in both cases, they're bringing something to my life that is different. And it's wow.
You're right. Having worked with the brands, teams, and clients of many nationalities, cultural differences are definitely something that you master. How do you approach new or different culture when working abroad?
Every case is slightly different, but if I have to find a common fil rouge, like my friends say, it's really getting the trust of local people. In every move I've done, even here in Paris, you have multiple ways to gain trust. No, I mean, sometimes you can do it with your skills, and then you bring some value to the table. But most of the times, you do it also with generosity, of I don't know, I mean, giving something or the little you have since you just arrived in a new position, you just arrived in a country, you don't have a lot to give in the very beginning, but the little you have, you give it, and you give it without asking anything. In return, it's helped you to build the trust. Or for example, of course, you perfectly speak Chinese, and this is another story, but we both needed to learn Chinese when we get there. We need it for ourselves. We need it also because just the fact that you are trying to learn a language in such a complicated environment, it shows that you are trying to integrate with the locals. And this is shown. This is perceived as a tremendous message of trust. And this builds trust with the people that you're working with because you're doing an effort. For the little stupid sentences you can tell only in the beginning, you're making an effort you're a guest in their country. That's exactly what I've been trying to do in every country I went. And luckily, there are not so many because otherwise you'd drive crazy after a while. But I'm trying to do the same for France. This is a selfishness. How can I say? There is something that I do it for myself. But I'm doing it because I want to be able to talk with you at the coffee machine without putting you in difficulty. And this is helping to build the trust. So back to your question, building trust, and you find your own way. It's the first thing. It's human being before business, no?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's not always given for granted.
You're right. But we're talking about making things really happening. And without trust, honestly, it's sure. You will interview someone that has like a decent career that has never been able to manage the trust with the people he works with. I think it's a masterpiece for success.
I mean, I think I met some, but they had a very short story, short experience in the sense that maybe it was also their mission. You go, you stay 2 years, you do this, and then go back.
Different story.
But when, as you said, the experience becomes a little bit longer for me, it's no longer business, it's life. If you think about global markets and brands, so the need to maintain a certain brand consistency and the strong pressure to localize in your area now as well in the past, what do you think is the secret to balance?
You already gave part of the answer with the word balance. The way I see it is more like an elastic. It's moving from framing very well the value of a brand with certain negotiable, but giving also the flexibility to adapt those values locally. But it's way more complicated to do it abroad, where the differences and the nuances are thinner. Playing this role of being like an elastic, I continue to being the guardian of the values at the same time. Allowing the countries to get the flexibility to adapt them and to give it a slightly different interpretation based on the local culture. And between the two, honestly, I am 51 inclined to the freedom, the local freedom, and 49% into the value and constraint of the brand consistency across the globe. It's a very philosophical question that then has some concrete application in really making the things happening in the country.
I like this yo-yo technique. I like it. One thing that I'm very curious because I've never experienced, because I only moved very far away from Europe, from one side, China, to the other, US. Is it tougher the longer the distance is? Also, the farther is the new culture you are adapting to?
I think we should split here two different elements. The personal adaptation and the business adaptation, the professional life and the personal life. From a personal life, when the culture is far away, there is a probably higher level of complexity and a longer time for adaptation. But this is not true when you talk about business, because company cultures are maybe very different, even from one country to another that are just crossing the border, which is the case, for example, for L'Oréal and Moleskine. Of course, in my case, we are talking about two very different sides of business, two different industries. And on top of that, I was working in Asia for basically almost 90% of the time that I worked for Moleskine, while when I started my experience in L'Oréal, I've been sent to Italy. So that was a big change. It was a challenging one. I think it's comparable. The personal challenge that I had when I moved from Italy to China is comparable to the professional challenge in terms of cultural adaptation when I moved from Hong Kong Moleskine to L'Oréal Italy, because you have a very, very different and complex environment that L'Oréal is mastering very well, but when you come from outside, wow, it take a while before getting to understand how to move between the corners of the culture of the organization.
What is the biggest lesson your global career taught you?
Even when you believe that you reach a certain level of knowledge that will put you in a comfortable environment, that's not true. At least if you have a certain level of ambition, desire to arrive, when you feel comfortable, it's you and yourself that at some point you create the conditions to move to a more complicated environment. And sometimes you think about it, you say, really, why did I do that? But then you live for it. You like it. So it's a kind of a good feeling that push you to get to higher complexity, and so this is it. You will never stop learning.
Nice. And what is the biggest and most important advice that your parents or the mentor have ever shared with you?
Here I tell you something very, very recent. I won't tell the name, but it happened in L'Oréal Italy. I was struggling in the beginning. As I mentioned before, the complexity, the change of industry culture side. And I was struggling because I was used to be in control, and then you want to perform. And I mean, I'm pissed off with myself. And so, of course, you talk to people. And I remember this person. He told me, Andrea, don't worry. We believe in you. This is not a run. This is a marathon. Take your time. You will get there. And I like to say this because it gave me, wow, it released me from the pressure. And I don't know if he says that because he really believed or not, but he said the right thing. And he was certainly a smart manager telling me that. So this is the nice little anecdote I tell you about it.
That's so nice. I think
And this is what I'm used to say also to my team, or when new cameras are coming in, or sometimes you have the channel, maybe someone is coming from outside and they put in contact with me because the company knows what I went through, and that somehow I managed to succeed and move forward. So they wanted me to share this knowledge, and this is what I'm saying. And I don't say that they told it to me, I say it to them. So they believe it even more. And this is not a run, this is a marathon, take your time. And this is, I mean, if you think about it, releases your pressure. You know, you have time ahead, because when you get to get that conversation with your manager, with your HR, it's because you feel that already some time has passed through and you should deliver. So this is very, very interesting.
Yeah, especially, in this modern, contemporary business environment where tomorrow you want the results. So you feel the pressure, as you said, but
absolutely.
It's absolutely nice that you share this, because it's nice to see that regardless the size of the company, which is not a small one in your case, you still have people that give you the right time to grow, and results will.
From a human management perspective, to be honest, I've been impressed.
You've been a keynote speaker in many events, conventions, and important schools all around the world. Let's suppose we start a masterclass, a Gloneration masterclass on how to become a global talent and manage the e-commerce or the business of a global brand. As a professor, what would you teach?
Since you're telling me that we're talking to students, okay, it's a masterclass, no? And I would say to students that they have a tremendous advantage against the professionals, which is the time. They have time to get their hands dirty with the new technology, with the new software, the new tools. And it's a luxury that when you work tough, you don't have. And that's what I would say. I would say study, build while you're studying, and you feel you're busy with your study, but trust me, you have plenty of free time while you're studying, because creating your own culture is priceless. You don't buy that along the journey of your career. So that's the fundamental base, okay? But then play with tools, build businesses, let them crash, try, get your hand dirty with the thousands of tools that are available online today that were not existing before, paid services at some point that we couldn't afford. So now there is like a massive mix of tools out there that you just need to go there, play, try, change. This is the real luxury that they have as a student. So that's what I would teach them through study culture and the technical subjects that, of course, you need to know. Test and learn.
Now, our Gloneration game. I would mention some area or life skills. You need to define whether you feel global or local. And by local, you can also specify whether Italian, French, Chinese, or, for example, food, global or local.
With food, I'll be even more specific, Italy.
Education.
Education, I think globally.
Sport.
Local, Italy, Milan specific. if I watch it, if I do it, could be also global.
Creativity.
Italian.
Family.
Italian and Russian for personal reasons.
Arts and culture.
Italian.
Beauty.
Global.
Design.
I studied industrial design, and you're touching I have to sadly say Nordics, because it's Italy, but it's many years we don't create anything new. We are still living on the greatest past of the 60s, 70s, 40s, post-war, and so on. But if you talk about design today, unfortunately, it's Nordics, and I love the design, the Nordic design.
Music,
global.
Movies,
global. But I grew up with. Maybe you will laugh. I grew up with Jerry Callas movies, and so allow me to be a bit trashy in the local sentiment I have for movies as well.
Holidays or destinations?
Global.
Now the skills: time management,
maybe German.
Problem solving,
Italian.
Empathy,
Latin.
Emotional intelligence.
This is global.
Leadership style.
I tell you global, but in some way, American leadership style is not bad. Huh? I like it. Very straightforward. We don't lose time. I like it.
Team management.
The French are good, huh?
I love it because you are my 10th guest, and you are the one that mention more local, and in the more local, more countries than anyone else. So I like it very much. Thank you, Andrea. So last question, what is next for you?
I like to look pretty much ahead, and I have something in my back, but right now it's definitely, I need to prove myself where I am. I just started a little bit more than 6 months ago in my new role, so now I'm really focused on tomorrow and the day after tomorrow to prove myself here. Let's provide results here, and then it's gonna be fun. It's already fun, to be honest.
Nice. Thank you, Andrea, so much for enchanting our audience today. It was a very nice journey.
No, thank you as well. It's a nice concept that you're going through, so it's a nice experience, and I love your way you're touching this topic. So thanks for listening to me, and good luck with the next interview.
Thank you so much. So here we go, guys. We are at the destination, at least for 2024. It's been quite a journey already, and much more is waiting for you next year. I imagine you are already following us on the platform. If not, do it now so that you will not miss any of our future episodes, and recommend Gloneration to all your friends who dream of an international career. I cannot think of a better Christmas gift for Gloneration. With all my heart, thank you very much for listening, following, and supporting the Gloneration. It means the world to me. With me, your host, Simona Lodolo. See you in around 2 weeks. Bye-bye.